All right, music fans, welcome back. It is Dave, the Real Music Observer, observing real music in real time for real people, just like you right there, and yours truly right here. I think it might be time for Steve Perry to make that phone call to Neal Schon. Here's my, I guess, belief on this. 1987 was rough for Steve Perry. He walks away from the band, a band that he had gotten pretty much total control over, okay? Getting rid of Ross Valerie and Steve Smith, basically replacing the rhythm section of the band. And then, he had some tough stuff happen to him, and he was on that merry-go-round, but when you look back, isn't that why, you get into this business? Because you want to have success? And I know he talks a lot about how that success kind of obfuscated the stuff that was happening to him personally, and I know that plays a huge role in, keeping him going. So then he gets off that so he can kind of go ride his motorcycle and so forth and figure things out. The other guys are thinking, okay, we were on this great ride and now that ride has ended. Perry again initiates another phone call, says, hey, let's get back. We all know the story, all right? I just think there's so much water has gone under the bridge, and these guys aren't young anymore. Neal's in his 60s, Steve is pushing 70, Kane is what, like 67, 68, something like that. Everybody is mature, and their lives are very different from the 1980s, okay? And people have new relationships, they have different relationships. Musically speaking, Neal Schon has made a ton of just connections because of who he is. And I think it's time, because Neal, in a recent post that he just made, said, hey, don't jump to conclusions about Perry, his album, or anything. Now, it looks like this album is going to drop. It looks, even if this album isn't going to drop, the appearance on TV alone is going to be a big deal. This ain't the big interview with Dan Rather. This is his old network, CBS, Sunday Morning, where they do a ton of sort of human interest stories and so forth. And they went back to Hanford, California, and it's going to air October 7th. And people are pretty pumped up about it. Ultimate Classic Rock had the headline, "Is Steve Perry returning to action?" Neal has yet to make that contact with Perry, and I know for a fact that nobody in the band Journey has Steve Perry's phone number. Okay, I know it's a fact. It's a sad fact, and I think it shows that there's some kind of blockage there, and it has to be coming from Perry. Now, for all the Perry fans that think, yeah, good, he doesn't need those guys and so forth, that's not what this is about. This is about human beings who worked together so well at one point, just reuniting and getting reacquainted, getting back together again. Neal Schon wants to do an R&B album with Steve Perry. That's right up Steve's alley, and smart by Neal suggesting it. I think it's a good way to kind of break the ice, and I'm sure Steve might be open to that. Or maybe Steve just wants to release the music he has and then retire gently into the sunset and not be heard from again. That would be probably more of Steve Perry's way, because he's waited, 20 years for this, and he'd wait another 20 years before coming back out and saying something. And I do think, though, that the fans really are the ones here who deserve something. Okay, the fans, the ones in 87 in the fan club, the Journey fan club, who were all left hanging. In 96, after Trial by Fire, Grammy nomination, gone. okay, and we're back to square one, and then the guys do maybe make a mistake by trying to rebuild the brand with Steve Augeri, and then later on, of course, with Arnell. Don't forget about Jeff Scott Soto in there. This is, I just, it's hard for me to kind of wrap my brain around this because it's been so long, and people are just going to say, well, let's just be thankful that Perry is here, and don't tell Steve Perry what to do. I'm not. I'm just saying that Neal Schon has, I did a video a couple weeks back called, Neal Schon offers the entire olive tree to Steve Perry, and he continues. He's dedicating lights to Steve Perry almost every concert now. This is kind of a big deal. A lot of overtures are being made, but still, there's no reciprocating on Steve Perry's end. And you have to wonder, Steve's going it alone. His final message to us before he parted ways for 20 years was a tune called I Stand Alone. And I think even though it was for this movie soundtrack and David Foster was in it, and was it Carol Bayer Sager or someone else was helping writing? I don't know. It seems very appropriate because Steve has chosen the loner route, and I wish he'd just kind of hang with his buddies again because those guys were helpful to him, and he said that in interviews. And he, of course, was very helpful to the other guys. So that's my video. I really think that Steve Perry ought to reach out to Neal Schon and whoever else he wants to. But we shall see. Maybe he just doesn't need them. See you soon, everybody.